While it's been a pretty uneventful offseason here for the Philadelphia 76ers thus far, as was expected due to having 3 max contracts on the books, besides Yabusele leaving, there haven't been really many headline moves, but there are a few under-the-radar signings that the Philadelphia 76ers have made to reshape and retool the end of their roster, and the Sixers just made another move the other day, waiving Alex Reese, who was a player on a 2-way contract, played sparingly between the G League and the Philadelphia 76ers roster last year as a stretch big. Was an intriguing player, an intriguing prospect, but I don't really think there was a long-term spot for him here. And the 76ers are going to look to tap into another route of a young potential player, and that is Dominick Barlow, a overtime elite product, will be now entering his 4th season in the NBA. He's floated back and forth between the San Antonio Spurs and the Atlanta Hawks, as well as some stints in the G League too. But this is a player who is still very young. You know, he's going to be on opening night. He's going to be younger than Janai Broome, the Philadelphia 76ers second-round pick. And he's already going into his 4th NBA season. So there's still a lot of potential there to tap into, to work with. I think that's Daryl Morey's kind of mindset with these 2-way contracts, and it should be. You know, you look at a player like Justin Edwards last year, a former 5-star recruit, undrafted free agent. 76ers take a chance on him, bring him in, have the faith in their coaching staff to get the most out of him, develop him, and he turns into a rotation player in year 1, and I think could be, you know, more than that going forward. The same thing that they're probably hoping for and swinging for the fence here with Barlow, and I think it's a smart move because Barlow is a former 4-star recruit, a highly recruited guy, was getting high major offers out of high school, and he decides to go the overtime elite route, you know, right to the professional route, and he's still young. He still has a lot to grow into, and I think that's the way to look at these 2-way contracts. With such a top-heavy roster, with Embiid, with Paul George, with Tyrese Maxey, McCain, VJ Edgecombe, you have to assume at this point Quentin Grimes back as well. There's only so many balls to go around on this 76ers team. There's only so many shots to be had. Let's take a swing and let's take some chances on some of these guys and these 2-way players. Let's not play it safe. Let's swing for the fences and tap into some spots because, let's be honest, none of these guys, barring major injuries, knock on wood, like last season, are going to be playing much minutes for the Sixers this year on these 2-way contracts. The hope is, you know, get them some minutes sparingly, but they're going to spend primarily, you know, 75-80% of their time down in the G League with the Blue Coats and getting valuable experience and hoping to tap in and develop that into, you know, a potential NBA player down the line. The 76ers are now bringing in Dominick Barlow. As I said, have played back and forth in the G League and the NBA for parts of 3 seasons now. Will now be entering his 4th season. Played in 35 games last year with the Hawks. His numbers at the NBA level haven't been that eye-popping, but this is a player that has played, you know, in limited opportunities. He hasn't averaged more than 15 minutes per game in any of his 3 seasons in the NBA, but you look at 4.2 points per game, 3.1 rebounds per game, and a 25% shooter from 3. Not much of a shooter from the outside, doesn't really show that, but an athletic big, you know, a hyper-athletic big, and I think that's an intriguing thing. For a Sixers team in the front court, Dominick Barlow is a player that the Sixers could, you know, potentially grow into, you know, being one of those energy bigs off the bench, playing for them at the 4, because I know everyone's still out there complaining that the Sixers don't have a power forward, and, you know, my argument with this all the time, there's always going to be a glaring need on a roster. You can look at, like, the Oklahoma City Thunder and say, okay, like, maybe they don't have it. Maybe they were a perfect roster last year. But 90% of the teams in the NBA, they're going to have a glaring roster, and the 76ers is at the 4. You know, that's what it is. When you invest so many resources into the front court with Joel Embiid at the center spot, all the money that they gave to Paul George last year, the money that they gave to the backcourt players in Tyrese Maxey, investing high draft capital in McCain and VJ Edgecombe, you're going to have a glaring need somewhere else. You have to kind of hope to swing for the fences or just find a player that you think you could just play it safe with. But I think the Sixers in this route with these 2-way deals are trying to tap into, you know, maybe we can find a hidden gem, a diamond in the rough type player, and Dominick Barlow could be that. You know, teams have taken chances on him the past couple years. Have they necessarily panned out? No, but still, as we said, he's still a very young player. You look at, you know, his age just from these past few seasons in the NBA, he's only entering his 4th year. He's going to be younger than Janai Broome on opening night, so I think the Sixers are kind of hoping to tap into that and some long-term some long-term potential to go forward. And I think, you know, if you want to look at a larger sample size of his numbers, to backtrack real quick, back to my point about Daryl Morey and taking a chance on some of these, you know, highly touted players. This was a guy that, coming out of high school, according to 24/7 Sports, was the number 56 player in the country, was the number 15 power forward, and the number 1 player in the state of New Jersey. You know, this is a guy that doesn't just fall out of bed. This is a very talented player. It could be, discussed, was the overtime elite route the right route for him? I don't necessarily think so, other than the Thompson twins. Who have we really seen, pan out from that thus far? The overtime elite, I think, is not the greatest basketball, but it is an opportunity for a guy out of high school to just go get paid right away, and that was intriguing at this time. But he is a player that you see has some high major offers listed here with Florida, with DePaul. A really talented guy, and I think Daryl Morey likes to take chances on these former highly touted recruits. You look at Jared McCain, you look at Tyrese Maxey, you look at Justin Edwards, all these highly touted players that have potential, that are young, that might not necessarily have had the year exactly that they were expecting for in their 1 year in college. He's taken a chance on, and the Sixers are looking to do that here, I think, with Dominick Barlow. And I'm a huge fan of this mindset and this strategy, because when you look at Embiid, you look at Maxey, you look at McCain, you look at VJ Edgecombe, there's only so many shots on this roster right now to go around. There's only so many minutes to be had. Let's try and tap into something. Let's see what Nick Nurse and the staff can do, because I think if you want to say one good thing about it, the development that they've done to some of these young players has been great, and you can attribute that to the players and their own hard work as well. But I think the coaching staff has played a role. Justin Edwards being what he was last year, buying in as a former number one overall player and basically just fitting in as a rotation guy. That's like a chip off his shoulders. Like let's not boost my ego, really, I guess we could say, for Justin Edwards. He could have came in there and been like, man, I'm the guy, I'm the former number one overall recruit in the country, let me go out there and do my thing, let me go out there and hoop. No, he bought in right away and fit in right into this team. Tyrese Maxey has got better and better. Jared McCain lit it up last year. I don't think anyone expected him to play that well. So not trying to shoot for the stars here and say Dominick Barlow is going to be like those guys and that effective, but there is some potential here still to tap into, and a good pedigree and a good background to look at for a Sixers team that needs a four, that needs a guy at the forward spot. And Barlow is a really athletic guy there. And you want to look at some of his G League numbers for a better look at what he's been able to do in some extended minutes. 21.8 points per game, 8.4 rebounds. So he rebounds really well for the four spot. Not much of a shooter from the outside. I think he tried to do it a little bit more this year at the G League. See three attempts per game, trying to extend his game, extend his range. But I really like the rebounding and the athleticism and just his ability to kind of score inside. I think he's a lob threat as well. And he's going to be a fun player to watch. Alex Reese was a little bit of a different player, not the most athletic guy in the world, more of a shooter. I think these guys are a little bit different, but I think there's more upside and there's more athleticism here to tap into, and a much younger player as well. As I said, he's going to be younger on opening night than Janai Broom, the 76ers second-round pick, was this past year, and he's only, and Dominick Barlow's going into his fourth year in the NBA. So, as the Sixers continue to make some of these under-the-radar signings, you kind of got to look at the angles of why they're trying to do this. And I think being a former four-star recruit, having 4 years of NBA experience, and still being a young player, there's some potential to tap into it that I think the Sixers are going to take a chance on. And who knows, it might not work out. They might waive him, look to sign another guy on a two-way deal. But it's an intriguing signing, and for a guy that's had some NBA opportunities already at a young age, it's one that I think it's willing to take a chance on. So nothing huge still in the Sixers market yet, as we're continuing to look for them to maybe make a splash at power forward, or eventually go out there and get Quentin Grimes back on that restricted free agent contract. But they are making some minor moves to the end of the roster that we still got to take note on and potentially tap into, because as we know with the Sixers, injuries are prevalent with that organization. Knock on wood, it doesn't happen this year. But there is a chance we could see Dominick Barlow playing some extended minutes, especially with how thin the power forward spot is on this roster right now. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Daryl Morey's strategy on these two-way deals. As always, thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time here on Sixers Digest.